Thank you, Srrah, for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here, Rawan.
Welcome to The Next Big Thing. Joining us today, we have Srrah Algheithy. She's someone who has always taken the road less traveled, following her own curiosity and helping to shape the technology landscape in Saudi Arabia.
Working in deep tech in general, what do you think are the unique challenges?
Deep tech or hard tech is a difficult field no matter where you go. There's a lot of risk to it, but there's also a lot of value. Getting market traction is one of the most difficult things. There is a tech boom, but you'll see that mostly it's going towards software-based startups, service-based startups. So we have room for improvement there.
And for you personally, what were some of the most surprising lessons as a founder?
There's a lot of effort, there's a lot of consistency, and there's a lot of doing the easy thing and the difficult thing every day with the same level of consistency and discipline. I would say leave behind the idea of quick wins or quick successes.
Srrah has worn many hats during her career. She started as an engineer, worked as a product developer, and now she is the CEO of a high-tech company.
And you guys were literally building this race car that looked like a spaceship.
So I looked left and all I could see was firefighters and ambulances, and my heart was racing because I didn't know what was going on. And at that moment, I realized that we're really testing technology.
I love that. I want to frame that last bit. Thank you, Srrah, for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Rawan, and to have the opportunity to be on this podcast. A little bit about myself. My name is Srrah Algheithy. I have a bachelor's in electrical engineering. I'm in the final phases of graduating from a master's in electrical engineering. And I'm currently a co-founder and the CEO of Sustainable Innovations, a Saudi-based high-tech product development company that is focusing on maximizing the impact of the knowledge-based economy.
Amazing. So before we dig into all of that, I want us to take a step back and look more into your academic background. So you're a fresh graduate from high school, and you decide to accept a scholarship to study electrical engineering abroad. What drew you to engineering originally?
So a little bit about my background is that I come from a family of academics. Have 4 siblings, all of which are very accomplished and leaders in their field, and none of which, neither my siblings or my parents, are in engineering field. I don't think I ever had like an aha moment of why I studied engineering or that I always had a passion for engineering. But I do feel I always like to take on challenges and like take on things that were different. And I even remember my physics teacher in high school, after she graded my exams, she would tell me, you always get the most difficult questions right and the easy ones wrong. So I think that kind of summarizes why I took on engineering, because it was challenging, and why I later on went into deep tech, because I kind of like to take on a challenge.
So it's more exciting because it's new. It's something you're not familiar with.
It's difficult, it's new, it kind of like makes me feel like I'm trying to stand out from the crowd.
Right. So in university, you chose, what is a male-dominated field, right? Most engineering fields are. Was that ever a factor for you in university or even at work later on?
So yeah, I mean, globally, engineering is not a predominantly female field. And whether that was graduating from a US engineering college, or when I moved on to data center management, or today in product development, it's not a female dominated field. But I would say honestly is that I never saw myself as a minority. I always saw myself as like an engineer in a room full of engineers, and always thought about like how can I distinguish myself based on my knowledge and capabilities. How can I compete with my peers and learn from them purely on a knowledge level? And I think that's where I was able to compete in the field, because I was focusing on what brings us together, not what distinguishes us from one another.
I love that. You never felt like a minority because you were just an engineer, right? Yeah, I really love that. So you did choose to study abroad. How do you think that shaped your experience and your relationship with your field?
So studying abroad, as I mentioned, is that I've come from like very supportive parents and academics, and they actually were very supportive about me and encouraged me to study abroad. I expected that studying abroad would be mostly about getting a competitive advantage and studying at like a distinguished school, an engineering school. But then with time and after I came back, I realized that what I learned most there was more so the independence. Like you're fresh out of high school, you go to a completely new country alone, And then there's this level of independence, financial dependence, accountability. You have an 8 a.m. class, and nothing's gonna happen if you don't show up. So it's on you to be kind of prioritize yourself. So right out of college, you're like you've kind of gained the social skills that are needed to help you succeed in life, help you take on a career, and then maybe in the future go into entrepreneurship.
Exactly, important skills for an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, for sure. So you graduate from college, you come back to Saudi Arabia, and now you're an engineer. So can you take us through your career progression and up until the moment that led you to saying, actually, I want to get into, technology development and innovation?
So I chose engineering because I like the field. So I like that as an engineer. I identified myself as one. So I think I would explain that like throughout my career, I was always trying to move back to that, closer to the hands-on, more to the technology development. I didn't want to diverge away from it. I went to the US on a scholarship with Saudi Aramco. So when I came back, I started as an engineer at Saudi Aramco. I took on many roles there. Some of them in the beginning were a lot further than the electrical engineering, further than I liked. And then I worked to, for example, move to data center management. So that was facility management, more hands-on, more looking at technology from an operational perspective, which I learned a lot from. And then in parallel, I was outside of work also looking at ways to continue to develop my skills. I did a master's, a professional master's in renewable energy and sustainability, and I volunteered in the solar car. So this gave me an opportunity to progress within the corporate environment towards technology development. I later moved to innovation and technology development within the company, and lastly, moved on to industrial investments. So managing multi-million dollar investments, creating new industrial companies in the kingdom. Then there came a natural time for me to kind of move more towards developing technology full time, and that came through becoming a co-founder in sustainable innovations.
So this is a great segue to get into this. How did this start? How did you join Sustainable Innovations?
So, as I mentioned, I was always on the lookout for ways for me to be more hands on. When I didn't find it within the corporate environment, I found it through education or through volunteer opportunities. I had just graduated from my professional master's, and I was looking for opportunities either within the company or outside the company to sharpen my hands-on skills. And through just like a stroke of luck, I guess, I saw an announcement for the Istidama solar car. And this is a corporate social responsibility established by Sustainable Innovations that brings together interdisciplinary engineers to create a fully solar electric vehicle and race it globally. So I applied to it, and they first asked me to come to the Sustainable Innovations headquarters and meet the team. And I walked in and saw a workshop. I can't explain how ecstatic I was, and just the vibe of the place. There's people uh, manufacturing carbon fiber, which is the first time I'd ever seen before here, and some people are creating solar panels here. And I met the Sustainable Innovation founding team. So they founded the company in 2017. They're brought together by visionary founders. And what brought them together was not a financial investment to create this company. It was more, each one had a very strong technical discipline and a vision of how we can develop technology in that discipline. So we have a lead in mechanical engineering, a lead in chemical engineering, and so on. And I started off with them as a volunteer in Istidama. Through time with the volunteering, I realized that they were always on the lookout for like-minded individuals. And I was also lucky that after volunteering with them for a while, they approached me and said, "You seem like one of us. So how about you join us as a co-founder?"
Right. So basically, they said you fit in with the team. We love your energy. So before we talk about sustainable innovations, we need to get back to the solar car race. So I think I met you guys during that time. I met the team in 2019, and you guys were literally building this race car that looked like a spaceship. And you were the one to drive this car, essentially. So what was that like driving over 3,000 kilometers in Australian desert in the Bridgestone World Challenge?
So the purpose behind the car, as I mentioned, was like it's a corporate social responsibility for sustainable innovations and a way to pilot the technologies. And why is that? Is because the race itself, it's a 3,000-kilometer race. Global teams from the top institutes around the world need to be able to travel 3,000 kilometers only on a very small amount of battery and 80% solar energy. So it's and there's really very difficult regulations that you need to stick to. So it becomes a race of innovation. It doesn't become a race, endurance race. It becomes a race of technology. Which team developed the most technology? Which country developed the best technologies? So obviously, just building the car itself was a challenge in itself. The team developed a lot of technologies and has encapsulated our own solar cells. So my first task was soldering solar cells, and then comes the race, and you realize that the true challenge is not building the car, it's testing technology to its absolute limits. So on paper, this battery will last up to 100 degrees Celsius. But then you get into the race, and this happened really in the 2019 race. About 1 hour into the race, like 100 kilometers from the starting line, I was actually driving the car, and the team is with me on the radio to tell me like how what speed to go and everything. And they told me, don't look left. So when somebody tells you don't turn around, you turn around, yeah. So I looked left, and all I could see was firefighters and ambulances, and my heart was racing. And my heart was racing anyway, but my heart was racing because I didn't know what was going on. And I saw one of the solar car teams, and there was smoke. And I later found out that their battery had failed 100 kilometers from the starting race. And that at that moment, I realized that we're really testing technology. We're testing it to its limits, beyond its limits, and that was one of like the main challenges that we were really testing when we were there in the solar challenge.
That's incredible, and it sounds scary, but it sounds also incredibly thrilling. Were there other memorable moments from that race that you can remember?
So another memorable moment is the memorable moments or the challenges or the failures, let's say. So we did every year the team focuses on maximizing even more of the local technology development. By 2019, we had developed a lot of the technology in-house. The chassis was made in-house, actually has a chassis number and everything. One of the very few things that we didn't manufacture in-house and that we got off the shelf was the battery management system. And 300 kilometers from the starting line, we realized that system failed. And it failed, and we had no control over it because it's not something that we design. We don't have spare parts for it. We don't know how it works. We just like put it, it's like set it and forget it. And that was a challenge because it puts you in a really difficult position because there's not much you could do. The only way we could continue was by like losing a large portion of the battery. And I think, and that in essence kind of summarizes what happens when industries don't have control over their technology. And it's the vision behind sustainable innovations is that if you don't own your technology, in one specific circumstance or the other, you're gonna find that when that technology fails, you're what they call it, up the hill without a paddle or something like that. So basically, there's nothing you can do, and that's what continues to motivate us to develop technology and own technology and kind of champion this within the kingdom.
So did you feel like you took a lot of those experiences into your work with sustainable innovations?
Yeah, so there's a natural relation between the two, Istidama is created for that exact purpose. It's a independent project by Sustainable Innovations because it brings on naturally talents that are committed to working in that interdisciplinary environment, are committed to developing technology to its lowest level, but also that have the ability to deal with ambiguity, to address challenges head on. And that's how we source a lot of our talents, and that's how I became part of the co-founding team. And at the same time, it takes on the basically the mission of if you can't import it, make it. If you can't find it, build it. If it failed, that means you need to have built it to begin with, and that kind of summarizes the mission behind sustainable innovations.
That's beautiful. I love that. I want to frame that last bit. So in 2024, you transitioned from a co-founder to full-time Sustainable Innovations member and also the CEO. So what was that shift like for you? I mean, shifting into this leadership role.
So by that time, I had been working with sustainable innovations part time for at least 4 years. There was a natural progression. I was working a full time corporate job, but also in sustainable innovations. I first started off as a volunteer. Then I led one of the product development teams. And then there always comes a time kind of in an entrepreneurship journey where the business needs you, kind of. And it just became a natural progression to kind of let go of one thing and then jump to the next. And in my case, it was that I had been working part time and taking on different leadership roles at Sustainable Innovations. And came the time that it was my role to kind of support the company by taking on the full time CEO role.
That must have been very stressful. I mean, holding on to 2 things. How did you manage during this time?
Yeah, so I said I do like to take on a challenge. So I never leave empty time in my schedule. And anytime there is, like, somehow find that I've found a way to fill it. It was challenging, but I will say that, like, it just comes kind of naturally. I won't say that I'm like a risk taker and that it was easy. As you know, like, I like held on to the part-time role for a long time. At a time it came that it just made sense to me. There was enough going on, and there was enough need. Kind of like it kind of became clear that you're not going to succeed and scale unless we start to be giving this more time. So it wasn't about like making that leap as much as it was about, okay, the time is now, kind of. And it was a calculated risk. It came with good planning and all of that, and that's how I envision it. Maybe that's not how others like take on the entrepreneurship journey, I guess.
So, Sustainable Innovations, that's a really interesting name. How did the team come up with it, and what's the mission behind it?
So sustainable innovations, I think when people hear it, they always assume it's sustainable as in green innovation, and that's not what it means. Sustainable innovations is focused on creating technologies that are competitive, that are self-sustained, that are locally made, that are destined to thrive and scale and compete globally, and that's what makes them sustainable. And that's why the name is very much in line with the vision, is that the vision of the company is to create sustainable technology locally that has a high value to the knowledge-based economy, and that is designed and supported from day one in a way that it's set to be self-sufficient, that it's set to be scalable, and is destined to lead and serve a specific market in a way that has true value.
Interesting. So, how do you choose the products that you're going to develop next?
So a lot of what we're talking about is innovation for market. So in essence, whether it's a technology that we're developing internally or it's that one that we're doing as a service per company, our main focus is innovate with the market in mind. So from day one, even when it's just a design on paper or a thought, we start to look at the market. We start to look at is there a need for it, and we also look at scale. So, for example, is there a need for it in this market? Can I design it in a way that it's easy for me to transition from this market to another? So, we don't want innovators, or we don't want companies to have to reiterate time and time again. I can think about that from day one, take a step back, and develop technology in a way that is ready to go to adjacent markets with little to no additional development. So that's how we decide what products we invest our time in developing, and we do the same thing with our product development as a service companies. So there's several examples of that. We have, like, for example, a carbon offset management system that came from a true need from the market to be able to measure carbon offsets and have like plantation monitoring. So there was a clear need from the beginning for what market it's going to serve and how it needs to be technologically and commercially competitive. We did the same for the defense sector, so a defense a carbon fiberglass boat, and all the industry needed to set up a manufacturing factory that can support that in a competitive manner. So I would just summarize that as we design with the market in mind.
I love that, and also try to keep it local as much as possible.
Definitely, yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
the
really
thinking behind
interesting.
it. Yeah.
So in terms of, you know, working in deep tech in general, what do you think are the unique challenges that companies face and that your company specifically faced?
So deep tech or hard tech, I think it's a difficult field no matter where you go. So one of the main reasons why it's a difficult field is because there's a lot of risk to it. There's a lot of risk to it, but there's also a lot of value in it. So there's a lot of value in entities and companies and kingdoms or countries uh, in having ownership of their own technology and being able to own all of that. But there's also a lot of risk because there's ambiguity in the beginning. There is a technology that theoretically, and you have to spend a lot just to get to like a minimal viable product. So this is a typical challenge in any industry. There are some additional regional challenges, which is that because this industry is still in the process of scaling, that there's still a little bit more effort of like getting traction in the market. So that's those are the main challenges to like deep tech is like getting somebody to invest in it or like have faith in it early on or even adopt it, and those are the challenges that we work to kind of address to create more traction for hard tech in the kingdom.
And for you personally, what were some of the most surprising lessons as a founder and as an entrepreneur?
Um, I don't know if it was surprising, but like I think like you know that it's gonna take all your time and effort, but then you don't really realize that like every waking moment and even not waking moment that you're thinking about like how to fix this and how to do that, especially when you're responsible for a team and there's a whole other level of accountability. It is a challenge, but also it becomes a driver. Is that this kind of like accountability and this need to succeed kind of like just drives you to put in more effort.
Do you think it gets worse before it gets better?
I think you don't know when it's gonna get better. So there's a lot of doing things, difficult things consistently, and not knowing. Sometimes you really think that this putting effort in this specific project, and that's gonna be like the next big deal or something, and then you don't realize that something that you like put a little bit of effort into, or you didn't think that ends up being the breakthrough. So I think. It does get worse before it gets better, but, like, you have to treat all of the, like, kind of opportunities with the same level of consistency because you don't really know which one is really gonna be the one that makes things get better.
Right. It's a lot of questions that you don't know the answer to,
Exactly,
essentially.
yeah.
So sustainable innovations works on product development and the establishment of hard tech startups. This work is so critical right now. Could you tell us more about that?
So this work is critical to kind of building any kind of thriving, diverse economy. So we focus on bridging sustainable innovations focuses on bridging the gap between R&D or academia and industry needs. And that is a known gap in an industry. It's actually called Death Valley because that's where a lot of technology dies. So it's a critical part of any kind of thriving innovation ecosystem, and it's the most difficult part. We bridge this gap by offering product development services and venture factory services to, as much as possible, kind of bring structure to that ambiguity there and create products or prototypes that are ready to enter into the market. So we sustainable innovations is positioned to kind of bridge that gap very well, and with companies like sustainable innovations and more companies like the product development, you'll see more of more knowledge based industries, more knowledge based factories, more products being manufactured in Kingdom, because it just creates more of a demand for that type of service.
That's really interesting. So if we zoom out and we look at deep tech, clean energy, sustainability startups, where do you think we stand right now in general?
There is obviously a need for these type of technologies. There are some challenges to developing deep tech technologies, which is that you have industry players. There is a reluctance to kind of adopt technologies, especially locally made technologies, especially when you're talking about very industries that are very kind of rely on having a level of reliability and competitiveness. So they don't have time to kind of test this technology. And there's also the gap of, for example, funding. So, in general, funding of technology at such an early stage is difficult in the region. And that's because, for example, VCs aren't currently investing in those. So even if you talk about tech, the tech boom here in the region, there is a tech boom, but you'll see that mostly it's going towards software-based startups, service-based startups, kind of. And that's where VC funding is going. And it's kind of been left to angel investors and private equity funds to kind of take the risk on these type of technology-based products. So we have room for improvement there. And but there's the need is there for the market, but there's those kind of enablers that need to be in place to kind of increase the traction.
Mm. And so you're based in Dhahran. What do you think is special about operating from here as opposed to Riyadh or Jeddah?
So Dhahran is positioned like in right next door to, or the location of, the number one energy provider. Like 20% of the world's energy is coming out of Dhahran from Saudi Aramco. So you have a huge market player, and naturally you have a lot of industrial players that are supporting these type of services. And right next door, literally right next door, you have one of the top institutes in the kingdom, or actually globally. KVPM is one of the top 100 universities. So there's, with them being so close, they've created kind of a cluster of a true like kind of bridging of a gap between kind of R&D and academia and industry. So I think basically Dhahran kind of is a really good place, and we believe sustainable innovations is the great place to start to like go to move forward with innovation development or technology development because of these regional players. And you'll see that, for example, in the region, it might be that these type of players are kind of this location is focused on a specific type of technologies. So, for example, you may see that Dhahran would be focused more on sustainability technologies, minerals, mining, industrial innovations, because that's kind of what the region is, kind of what this region and what these market players need. Um, and you may see in other locations that are there's different focus. So, for example, Jeddah is closer to the EV industry, the newly established EV industry. So you may see that there's more of a focus there on innovation that supports that type of an industry.
That's really interesting. So each have their own innovation DNAs, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. So I think there will be like kind of the foundational services. So in the future, I see as like all of these innovation cities or innovation districts will kind of have similar foundational services that ensure that people are going from academia into innovation, into entrepreneurship. But then eventually they'll start to merge into different kind of focus areas that are better or more specialized at serving a specific industry and a specific need.
So we're currently recording in Dhahran Techno Valley. How do you think DTV is helping to bridge some of those gaps?
So yeah, being like kind of literally a bridge between academia and market players. For example, as I mentioned, is that physically you're bridging the gap between a large academic player like KVPM and then a large industry provider. And what ends up happening is that you'll see both sides kind of are trying to come kind of closer together. So you'll see more effort from the universities to make sure that their students or that their researchers are developing for the market. And then you see more of openness from the market players to kind of work with academic institutes to kind of bridge that gap. And then there's other supporting enablers here, like funds and support services. And that's why we've positioned ourselves here in this Tehran Techno Valley to be kind of one of those many enablers that kind of creates an ecosystem where innovation now becomes innovation for the market, and ideas that started off in academia or in corporate R&D become products that are helping different industries become more competitive.
So do you think founders and startups in those areas specifically would benefit the most from DTV? What other maybe startups would also benefit from being in the DTV ecosystem?
So I like, as I mentioned, is that it might be more specialized. So I'd see founders and startups that are looking to kind of launch products that serve specific industries like the energy industry, the minerals industry, the sustainability industry, industrial innovation. Would benefit a lot from being here in Dhahran. We benefit a lot sustainability from being close to the talent, so sourcing talent pools from the universities and being close to the industry. And that's what makes Dhahran such a like a unique location. And we truly believe that it's the best place for you to start innovation in this sector and then scale it from here.
So this is really interesting. Just looking at the ecosystem gaps, what do you think are the most pressing challenges for founders starting out in Saudi Arabia today?
So, although the innovation sector has like grown a lot, entrepreneurship in this field has scaled a lot since this company was established. There's still some gaps that kind of that need minding in the region specifically. So, basically, getting market traction is one of the most difficult things. As I mentioned, is that deep tech is kind of high risk, and it's high risk for the entrepreneur and it's high risk for the market player kind of. So there is kind of a difficulty to get kind of market traction. Yes, companies theoretically want to be competitive, but are they going to do that at the risk of testing out a technology that could disrupt their business, especially like an oil industry where that would never happen. So I think some of the main challenges or enablers that could help bridge that gap is like creating sandbox environments that allow these new technology providers or these new entrepreneurs to test their technology and also allow big industry players to see that technology succeeding or failing and optimizing that and then seeing the value of it in a sandbox environment. And I think that will make it a lot easier to improve technology adoption and to improve like reliance on technology here in the region. And similarly, that comes to the investment element that we talked about is that having kind of more high risk or VCs that are willing to invest in hardware based technology that is serving a specific market need. And those two together will start to create more traction and more growth of technology-based startups and improve the adoption rate.
Mm. So locally, we're very risk averse, is what I'm hearing. Do you think it's the same globally?
So I think globally, I'm sure they all went through the same kind of like reluctance in the beginning. Now, when you benchmark yourself globally, it's easy to see that other countries are succeeding. But that's also because, like, when it's easy to succeed when there's success stories, kind of. So if companies start to see like technology being adopted in their competitive industry and seeing that oh my competitor is thriving because of it, the risk kind of becomes less in their eyes. So, so I think globally, we're kind of going through the same progression that different global industry leaders went through, and they are maybe ahead of us right now because there's success stories, because there's those enablers we talked of more funding at the earlier stage, more ability to pilot and kind of test technologies in a safer environment. And I truly believe that once those things start to become more commonplace here in the kingdom, is that we'll be on track to kind of be just as competitive globally.
Mm. So, Sarah, if you had a magic wand and you could make any change to the ecosystem here in Saudi Arabia or in Dhahran, let's say Dhahran specifically, you gave some examples of, and ideas of how we could maybe test certain ideas. What would be a change that you would choose to do?
So yeah, mainly the elements I talked about is that, for example, having lower risk environments, having kind of industry players more willing to kind of test out technology. We're very confident that once they do, is that they'll see how invaluable technology is to their resilience, to their competitiveness, to their overall. So, having more opportunities to kind of adopt technologies and having more of the enablers that we're discussing that bridge these gaps. We see that like what's critical to the growth of the innovation ecosystem is that more companies like Sustainable Innovations that offer those services that kind of um, maximize the number of technology startups. So, for example, if we can talk globally, for every fund, there's like 4 or 5 product development companies. So, the more that those exist, the more you're going to find that the naturally is that people are willing to go to a reliable company like Sustainable Innovations and be like confident that with a specific budget and a specific time period that they can have an MVP that does one, two, and three. and that reduces the risk, and that kind of increases the amount of the willingness of industry and the willingness of investors to kind of take on hard tech startups.
Mm. So looking at the future, how do you see the Saudi innovation landscape changing?
So looking at the future, basically, I'll start by looking at the past. So when Sustainable Innovations was established in 2017, the team was talking gibberish. Like they were talking to industry players that were used to like operations and used to, for example, importing technology. So it was difficult to even like the word product development was not even known. It was kind of educating the industry. Why do you need this? Why does this make you more competitive? So it started out as kind of technical consultations to kind of show value. And then when COVID hit, everything changed because COVID kind of became a wake up call to all industries. Is that what happens when you can't import this technology? You realize that you're like your whole business and your income is reliant on something that you have no control over, and that could, under any circumstance such as COVID, kind of just like disappear overnight. So after COVID, instead of us going out and teaching the market about product development, people were searching product development or prototyping and then finding us. Like we literally have had customers come to us and say, "We searched product development companies in Saudi Arabia and sustainable innovations came up." ChatGPT told us sustainable innovations is the place to go. So there's already has been excellent progression. It's become more complex. The need is clear. The demand is clear. We see that I think the innovation and ecosystem as we move forward, we're going to see more technology-based startups. We see industry players that are more willing to kind of develop a technology, manufacture in kingdom, establish factories that are creating technology that historically they've been like kind of suppliers for and like importing from out of kingdom. So I can tell you firsthand that we're heading in the right direction. So I think as we move forward, we're going to see a lot more innovation based startups in the kingdom. And I truly believe a lot more of innovation based startups or companies that start to export this technology internationally.
So Sada, being CEO now and a co-founder for so long, what would your advice be for someone who's just getting into it, who's an entrepreneur with big dreams who wants to, get to the point where you guys are right now?
Um, so I would say take like kind of the fastest path to market. So always think with the market in mind. And don't kind of minimize the level of consistency and effort and alignment that it needs. So especially if you're in tech, I think it's founded on having a strong foundational team that are aligned on a vision and that kind of like can hold their breath long enough because it's going to be a rocky road before it gets better. So making sure that you have a founding team that is aligned, that is capable, and that is consistent. Makes sure that you're going on this journey in a way that kind of together, that we are aligned together, and that you're heading all in the right direction.
So if you were to tell them to prioritize one thing and leave one thing behind, what would those two things be?
I would say prioritize creating a strong team and align on a vision, and leave behind the idea that of quick wins or quick successes. I think it's easy to hear other people's stories in like a short podcast and think that this seems like it's a quick journey. There's a lot of effort, there's a lot of consistency, and there's a lot of doing the easy thing and the difficult thing every day with the same level of consistency and discipline to kind of make sure that you're aligned to head to the same vision that you started off heading to.
Yeah, honestly, Sada, you make it look easy. And you've had such an incredible career so far. So what's next for you in sustainable innovations?
For sustainable innovations is that we see ourselves as a pivotal player in creating a knowledge-based economy. What's next for us is that we are continuing to thrive and aim to support different industries to develop technologies, and not just to develop technologies that are used in kingdom or technologies that move on to export and have global impact. And you will see sustainable innovations doing this, supporting multiple industries, scale into technology development. as well as creating kind of the value chain of services that need to kind of bridge that gap. So, be it the early stage product development and spaces and support services, or the later stage mass manufacturing services, so that eventually people can look to the kingdom and see that this is a location for agile innovation that can quickly and efficiently go from idea to market, because all of that ecosystem is there. And that's exactly what sustainable innovation sets out to do.
I love it. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for being here and sharing your story with us today. And for our listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for more exciting stories from the front lines of Dhahran's creative and tech landscape.